As long as we get clearance from that, if they do make a motion to sequester witnesses and you're not fully excused from subpoena, then you won't be able to. Most likely you're not going to be excused. You'll be, you'll be allowed to go home, but under the power to recall you. So you can't stay, you can't watch.
All right.
Thank you. You may be seated. Where did you go? Todd over there?
I do not believe so, no.
Miss Where?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. They're way underneath. Oh, there's one right over here. It's right there.
Oh, look at this one. Oh. We're back on the record, the matter of State of Michigan versus Horser and Gamrat. Let's do a couple housekeeping matters first. At the break, we were asked about scheduling. Good news is, yes, we're going to go today. My plan is for us to break around 3:30, 4 o'clock for the day. Tomorrow we'll do the same thing. Then I was asked about Friday. Passing hints up here. I had indicated, because the question was asked after the gentleman, ladies had left the courtroom, that I do not intend to go on Friday. We budgeted these 2 days, holiday weekend coming up. We're not going to go Friday. Depending on where we are with the witnesses, if we somehow miraculously got through all 8 witnesses, my position would be, let's just see where we are with the appeal. If we get through less than 8 witnesses, then we'll just take a date and come back sooner. Okay, that's kind of where we're going to look at that. So we'll go to 3:30, 4 o'clock today. We'll find some place in there where there's a natural break. And then we'll try and get started tomorrow at 8:30 and run until that same time. At the time we took a break, we had not started. Actually, I believe we have now some additional preliminary matters. Mr. Nichols.
You mean a sequestration?
I don't mean anything, but if you have something, I'll hear it.
I thought the court was trying to remind me to remember to move for it. I move for sequestration.
Objection.
No objection.
Mr. Furnham?
No objection.
Townsend, Ms. Hart. All right, all witnesses in this matter are sequestered. You are to wait outside in the hall. You are not to discuss your testimony with any other witness. either before or after they testify. Now, I need you folks to turn around and look, because I have no clue who all your witnesses are. So if they're in the courtroom, I'm going to leave it up to you to ask them to step outside.
John, I would just indicate Special Agent Dwyer is our officer in charge of his...
Investigator may stay.
Thank you.
All right, nobody's moving, I guess that's it. All right, cross-examination. Completed, correct.
Okay.
Mr. Graham, Mr. Nichols.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Graham, I'm going to ask you some questions first about some statements and interviews that you've given related to these matters. Okay, sir?
Yes, sir.
You were interviewed by the House Business Office on or about August 18th. Is that correct?
That sounds right. I don't know the exact date.
Do you know whether or not it was before or after Ms. Gamrat was interviewed?
I do not know.
That's okay. If you don't know, that's fine. And if you don't understand my question, by the way, let me know. And I'll try to clarify it for you, okay?
Yes, sir.
And I won't step on your answer, I promise. I'll try not to. And please wait for me to finish the question, all right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You were also interviewed by Detective Brewer on or about November 1st at the Michigan State Police Office?
Yes, sir.
And you were with your attorney there?
Yes, sir.
I don't think she's been identified. Sarah Howard, is that right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Back then, let's start with November 1st, your memory of these events was much better than it is today. Would you agree with that?
It was closer to the actual dates of the happening, so I would assume it would be better, yes.
And you made some statements to Detective Brewer about certain recollections that you had. Is that also correct?
I did.
You told him certain things about that meeting with Todd Corser that you secretly taped on May 19th of 2015. Is that also correct?
We did discuss it, yes.
At some point in time, you testified on direct examination that you believe Cindy Gamrat called Todd Corser. Is that also correct?
Yes, sir.
And you said that because you recognize her voice.
No,
Right.
I said that because Todd said Cindy was calling.
Well, do you recognize her voice?
I did recognize her voice, but first Todd said it was Cindy calling.
Okay. Well, that's important then. Would you be able to recognize what she sounds like when she's on the phone with another person and you're sitting a few feet away from that person?
Yes.
Because you gave some direct examination testimony. You were under oath, right?
Yes,
Right?
sir.
You were trying to be truthful, right?
Yes, sir.
You were trying to be accurate here this morning. Is that also correct?
Yes, sir.
When you gave that opinion that it was Cindy Gamrat's voice this morning, is that because you have an independent memory that it sounded like her voice on the other end of that line?
Yes.
Context is important when you can only hear a snippet of a conversation. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
And what you heard was a snippet of what you believe Cindy Gamrat said to Todd Corser, correct?
Yes.
And I wrote a note that you said something under oath to the effect of, would it help if I talked to Ben? Right?
Yes.
Now, what it means would be important, right?
Yes.
It could mean a lot of different things, right?
Yes.
And you didn't hear the whole conversation between those two, so you really don't know what it means, right?
Yes.
She could have been concerned about you finding out about the affair.
Yes.
Did you work for her?
I was instructed to report to her.
I'm sorry?
I was instructed to report to her as if she was my boss.
If I were to look at the organizational chart for the Michigan House of Representatives in 2015, where did you fall on the organizational chart in terms of who your specific supervisor was?
My direct supervisor was Todd Corser.
Okay. Now, at some point in time, there was a conversation between you and Mr. Corser about Joe Gamrat, correct?
Yes.
And when you talked to Detective Brewer, you told him that you thought that Todd Corser lied about when Joe Gamrat was involved in this email.
When I spoke to Detective Brewer?
Yeah.
On what date?
November 1st.
Okay, could you repeat the question?
Sure. You told him that you thought what Todd Corser told you about Joe Gamrat's involvement in the drafting of that email was a lie.
I did, yes.
You also told him that you don't know if Cindy Gamrat knew about the contents of that email. Is that correct?
I do not have any first-hand knowledge of that, no.
Of what you said to Detective Brewer?
I'm sorry, repeat the question?
Of what you said to Detective Brewer? Or the substance of the question?
The substance of the question. Could you repeat the first
Yeah.
question?
Yeah. And this is at approximately 1 hour and 23 minutes into your interview with Detective Brewer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Okay.
Did you know that it was being recorded?
I did not.
That you were told to keep it quiet, so to speak.
Yes.
Do I have the right context?
You do, yes.
But actually, that's not what Cindy Gamrat said, is it?
I don't know specifically what she said. I don't have the recording.
Well, there's a transcript, right?
There is.
And you looked at the transcript this morning while you were on the stand?
I glanced through it.
Okay. Have you looked at the transcript before today?
No, I was given it this morning.
Okay.
Mr. Nichols, when was this?
May 21st?
Now, is this the telephone conversation?
This is the recorded meeting involving, and let's make sure I'm right with Mr. Graham. Mr. Graham, Ms. Gamrat, Mr. Corser, and anybody else?
No.
Okay.
So Ms. Gamrat was not there.
She was there. It was the three of them. It was an interview or a conversation that Mr. Graham recorded.
She was physically present?
Yes, sir.
May 21st, yeah. It's, I got 964. I'm on 968 right now. Page 19. Page 19, everybody. So, actually what she said to you was, there was more context to that statement that you testified to this morning, right?
Can you repeat the question?
Sure, sure. She didn't just say, keep it quiet, Ben, right?
I'm sure there was context, yes.
Okay. In fact, it was... I don't know that I won't resign. I don't know what is the best answer, because if I did, I'd like to be able to work that through with my family still privately as much as possible and still give it the best shot I can. I'm sorry we put you in this position. Is that correct?
I believe that is in the transcript, yes.
Okay.
Now, who's saying that?
Ms. Gamrat. In fact, at some point during that meeting, she also said to you that whatever you decide to do is okay.
Yes.
Does that mean your future?
It was in the context of a discussion about my future at the office, yes.
Okay, I'm going to move on to a different topic, Mr. Graham. The person here with you, your lawyer?
Yes.
Is she your lawyer in your lawsuit?
Yes.
Okay. And you're suing Cindy Gamrat?
Yes.
And Todd Corser?
Yes.
And you know if they filed countersuits against you?
As I understand it, they have not filed countersuits, but have filed a notice of intent to file countersuits.
You were fired from your job by the House Business Office Director, Tim Bowman, is that correct?
I was fired by Representative Courser as he was my direct supervisor.
So, could we agree that at his direction, you were fired by the state of Michigan?
Yes.
At his direction, and at his discretion?
Yes.
Despite all that, you're trying to do your best to tell the truth
Yes, sir.
and be accurate?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm going to check in with my table if I may, briefly. On direct examination this morning, you testified to some conversations about, some conversations with children
Yes.
before all of this happened, or about it.
Yes.
Yeah. And those conversations were about some general topics, right?
I'm not sure what you mean by
Well, I think
general
the testimony
topics.
was what Ms. Gamrat was doing during the work.
That was one of the things I said, yes.
Did you follow her for children or not?
No.
I'll go that way, please.
All right, cross-examine Mr. DePerno.
Mr. Graham, are you familiar with the House rules?
I am not that familiar with the House rules, no.
Does that mean you are unfamiliar with any rules, or just all of the rules?
I'm not intimately familiar with the rules.
Are you familiar with House Rule number 9?
I am not.
Did Mr. Courser directly come to you and fire you or terminate you?
Could you repeat the question?
Was it Mr. Courser that came to you that, was he the person that terminated you?
There was a discussion before I was terminated about how I wanted to take the road out of Lansing.
I'm asking you, who gave you the notice that you were terminated?
Tim Bowen.
Tim Bowen is not Mr. Courser.
Tim Bowen operated on the instruction of Representative Courser.
And that's your belief, you don't know that, is that correct?
Representative Courser is my direct supervisor.
Wasn't Keith Allard your direct supervisor?
In an unofficial capacity, yes.
What does that mean, unofficial capacity?
Officially, he worked for Representative Gamrat.
But unofficially, he was your supervisor?
Unofficially, he was considered my supervisor, but we operated as a team.
So Mr. Courser wasn't your supervisor?
Mr. Courser is my supervisor.
Are you aware that only the Speaker of the House has the authority to terminate an employee?
Counsel, let me just ask you a question. What does that got to do with it? What is, who fired him? He got fired. I mean, he doesn't work there. What does that have? How does that help me determine probable cause as to any of the counts related to Mr. Courser?
Well, I'm trying to lay a foundation here as to the issue of Mr. Graham's presence at Mr. Courser's office day and in what capacity.
When were you fired?
July 3rd.
And you were at Mr. Corser's residence when?
May 19th. Well, his law office.
His law office,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
May 19th.
So he worked at the time, right?
He was working at
Okay,
the
he was
time.
working at the time. His boss called him, told him, come over to my house. Okay. I'm not sure where we're going with this, but let's get there.
Okay. You stated initially that you recognize that you're employed by the House of Representatives.
Yes, there's the organization I work for.
You stated that you were supervised by Mrs. Gamrat, is that correct?
I was told to report to her as if she was my supervisor.
So if your supervisor was Mrs. Gamrat, why are you saying now that your supervisor was Mr. Corser?
He officially was my supervisor. I worked in the District 82 office, who Representative Corser
Who
was.
appointed him as your supervisor?
He is the one who signed the documents to have me hired on January 2nd.
Let's talk about May 19th, the evening that you went to Mr. Corser's office. This was his law office?
Yes, sir.
You stated in your direct examination that you like to keep personal separate from business. Is that correct?
I was trying to maintain a home life without having work intrude on it constantly, yes.
You don't want to do business in the evening, is that it?
I would prefer not to. I think we all would.
Was a part of your employment with the House of Representatives, did you have to complete a time card?
I completed a time card in the sense that I had to fill out a time card that said whether or not I worked on a specific day, but I didn't fill out complete time cards with a check-in and check-out time.
Did you fill out a time card for the evening of May 19th?
I'm sure I filled out a time card for the day of May 19th.
Did you fill out a time card for the evening of May 19th?
As I said, we don't keep time cards with specific times on them, so.
Did you maintain your office for Bellwether Strategies at Mr. Corser's law firm?
I believe that was the office location listed on certain documents, yes.
Does that mean that you did business from Mr. Corser's law firm?
In the year 2014, yes. In the year 2015, no.
Did you keep business property at Mr. Corser's law firm?
Yes.
Did you spend time at his law firm?
Up until in the year 2014, yes. In the year 2015, no.
Did you have a key to his office?
I did.
Did you ever sleep at his office?
Your Honor, I'm just going to make an objection as to the relevancy of the line of questioning.
Oh, I think I see the relevance, counsel. Saying that he went there and he had some fear of going because he didn't sound well. Well, Mr. Corser didn't, and he knew he kept a loaded handgun there. I see where he's going. I'll take you.
I'm sorry, was there a question? Did I miss a question?
Did you ever sleep there?
Oh, I did in the year 2014, yes. In the year 2015, no.
Did you ever change your business address for Bellwether Strategies with the state of Michigan?
I believe so, but I do not know for sure.
In 2015, was your address with the state of Michigan still at Mr. Corser's law firm?
That would be a better question for Josh Klein. He normally handles that paperwork as my partner.
Did you ever do political work for Mr. Corser outside of the legislative function?
In the year 2014, yes. In the year 2015, no.
So you had done it for him in the past?
Yes.
Did he pay you for that work?
In the year 2014, yes. In the year 2015, no.
So it wasn't unusual for you to go to his office as a political advisor through Bellwether Strategies?
It was quite uncommon after I started working in the house.
But it wasn't unheard of.
It was quite uncommon while I was employed at the house.
I'll accept your answer to that. You stated that you were concerned for your own safety because Mr. Courser had a gun, correct?
Correct.
And this was 10 o'clock in the evening?
I believe I got to his office at about 10:30.
Why would you go to someone's office at 10:30 in the evening when you know they have a loaded gun and when they sound to you to be stressed out and you're concerned for your safety? Doesn't that sound unusual?
I felt that he was my boss and there could be serious repercussions if I didn't go.
You don't think you had the ability to say, you know what, it's the evening, I don't want to come, I'm frightened for my safety, call somebody else?
I don't think telling your boss that you won't come see them because you're frightened for your safety is a good career move, no.
But you did call somebody, didn't you?
I did.
You called Keith Allard?
Yes.
You called Josh Klein, correct?
Yes.
Did you tell them that you were afraid for your safety?
There was a discussion about if my safety was insured when I was there.
And what, did you feel like your safety was insured?
I felt that recording it would ensure some more safety than if I didn't.
How does a recording help you from somebody who's stressed out with a gun?
Well, I thought there was a good possibility that he could harm himself, and if I was sitting there with a smoking gun and a body, I felt that if I had a recording, that might help.
So you thought he was actually going to kill himself?
I thought there was a possibility.
But regarding that, the only person you called was Keith Allard and Josh Klein.
I spoke with my wife about it as well.
You didn't call the police?
No.
And is it your testimony that Keith Allard and Josh Klein, their response to you was to record the conversation?
My testimony was that we discussed recording the conversation.
And isn't it true that Keith Allard told you to record the conversation?
No.
If Keith Allard said that he told you to record the conversation, would you dispute that?
I would.
So now you're fearful for your life. There's a person who's stressed out. He's got a gun. You haven't called the police. You've armed yourself with a recorder, and you go to Mr. Courser's office at 10:30 in the evening, right?
Yes.
Did you know about the affair at that point?
Yes.
How did you learn about the affair?
We had suspicions for quite a few months. A few days before that, Cindy confirmed the affair to her husband, Joe, who told Keith Allard about it, who told me.
So you're saying you only learned about it a few days before?
I only had 100% confirmation a few days before.
You had suspicion prior to that?
Correct.
And you had suspicion based on what?
Based on the way that they conducted themselves at work.
Did you learn about the affair earlier because you had gained access to Mr. Courser's email?
No.
Did you ever send an email to anyone revealing the password for Cindy Gamrat's email account?
No.
You never did that?
No.
Did you ever tell Joe Gamrat what Cindy Gamrat's email account password was?
No.
you know a person named Brandon Hall?
I do.
Did you ever tell Brandon Hall that you had gone to Mr. Corser's law firm that evening in order to feed him information that he wanted to hear?
Can you restate the question?
Did you tell Brandon Hall that you went to Mr. Corser's law firm that evening and that you were feeding him information
No.
that Mr. Corser wanted to hear?
No.
You didn't say that to Brandon Hall?
No.
Did you ever send a text to Keith Allard in early 2015 where you stated that you needed a plan to remove Todd Corser from office?
No.
Did you operate in a dual capacity for Mr. Corser, as at some point you were operating as a political operative, and in other times you were acting on the legislative side as a employee for the House of Representatives?
No.
So is it your testimony that you were always operating as an employee of the House of Representatives?
I was never paid for anything outside the House of Representatives.
You were never paid by Mr. Corser for political work you were doing outside the House of Representatives?
Not in the year 2015.
Approach, Your Honor.
Sure.
You recognize this?
I do.
Is this an invoice that you sent from Bellwether Strategies
It is?
for work that you're performing for Mr. Corser?
It is?
Is this in 2015?
It is?
So you did do work and received compensation from
I was
Bellwether.
never paid for this invoice. I'm sorry.
You did do work for Mr. Corser in 2015 on the political side, separate from your work as an employee on the House of Representatives.
No, I was never paid for this.
That wasn't the question. Did you do work?
Work is paid.
Did you do
I did
work
not.
for Mr. Corser as a political consultant in the year 2015?
I was never paid, so I would not say that that's work.
Were you contracted or asked to do some political work by the defendant?
I was asked to obtain a list. While I was working in the House office building, I was asked to obtain a list.
Okay, and that was for some political purpose?
Correct.
And did you send him an invoice from, what is this, Bellwether, what's the name of the company?
Bellwether
Strategies.
Strategies.
Okay, so you sent him an invoice for it, right?
Correct.
No, you didn't get paid.
Correct.
Okay? All right, next question.
Do you think it's possible that Mr. Corser thought you, is it possible that he called you to his office that evening as a political consultant and not as an employee for the state of Michigan?
Objection, speculation.
I'm going to agree with that. You're asking him what was in Mr. Corser's mind. I don't know how you know that. He gave explicit testimony as to what Mr. Corser said to him. Okay, so.
Did Mr. Corser say to you, in his conversation, did he ask you to come to his office as a political consultant?
No.
Did he ask you to come as an employee of the House of Representatives?
No.
Were you able to read the entire email when you were in Mr. Courser's office?
He read me a large majority of it.
But I'm asking you, were you able to read it on the screen?
I was.
And did you read the entire email on the screen?
I read a good majority of it.
Do you know that what you read on the screen was what was sent out through an email list?
Yes.
Do you know if any way it had been modified after you talked to him?
Not specifically.
You took the next day off, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
You didn't show up for work?
I took a personal day.
Did you fill out a time card for that day?
I filled it out as a personal day.
Were you paid for that day then?
I was paid as a part of the paid time off policy in the house. I was paid for a personal day.
The next day was Friday, May 21st, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And on May 21st, you met with Brock Swartzel and Hassan Beydoun?
That's incorrect.
Who did you meet with?
Norm Sari and Brock Schwartzel.
Why did you meet with them 2 days after this recorded conversation?
During our orientation in the house, there was a presentation made about various sexual harassment issues or just issues you had with your boss in general. And Norm was one of the people who gave that presentation and said, if you have any issues like this, come and talk to me about it.
Had they asked you at any point to record any conversations between yourself and Todd Courser?
No.
Did they direct you to record that meeting on May 19th?
No.
Did anybody else direct you to record the conversations on May 21st or June 9th?
No.
Now, you testified that on May 21st, Mr. Courser asked you to keep this quiet for the sake of his family. Is that correct?
I believe I said Representative Gamrat said something to that effect.
Did Mr. Courser ask you to keep anything quiet?
I would have to consult with the transcript or the tapes to
But you're
answer
sitting
fully.
here, you don't have any recollection that he told you to keep anything quiet, do you?
I would have to refer to the tapes.
What day were you terminated?
I believe it was July 3rd of 2015.
And you made the email public on August 7th, is that, or the voice recording public on August 7th?
Yes, sir.
Why did you decide after you were terminated to make this recording public?
I felt that the recording and the issues discussed in it disqualified Representative Courser from being a representative of the people, and I felt that the people should know about it.
Were you disgruntled that you had been terminated?
I think anyone who's disgruntled would be, or anyone who's terminated would be a bit unhappy about it.
After you were terminated, did there come a point where you disclosed to some other people the email for Mr. Courser at the House of Representatives and his email address? I'm sorry, his password to his email address.
No.
Did you know Mr. Courser's email password for the House of Representatives?
His official email?
His official email for the House of Representatives?
Yes,
You knew his password?
I did.
So you were able to get access to his official email address?
Yes.
Did you ever disclose to anybody that email address? Or, I'm sorry, that
It's
email
it's
password?
public information.
The password?
No, you said the email
I'm
address.
sorry, I meant the password. Did you ever disclose to anyone that email password?
I think I already answered that, but no.
Let's ask about his personal email account. Did you know the password to...
Just an objection is to relevance.
Well, frankly, I was getting ready to ask that question myself, Mr. Colonel. I'm looking at the complaints here. What is, there's no testimony that he accessed the account and sent this email out, so I don't understand where we're going with this. How does this help me determine probable cause?
Well, it's our belief that he did not go to Mr. Courser's office that evening as a employee, but went as a friend, but more importantly, that he had a plan in going there, and because he had been reading Mr. Courser's personal emails.
Okay, well, he said he didn't, but even if he did, so what? If he didn't, the count alleges on the misconduct in office, if I understand this would be count 4. Count 4 says that he did commit Mr. Courser an indictable offense of common law. He solicited a state employee, a member of the legislative staff, to send out a false email for dissemination. It doesn't say he sent it, he just solicited him to do it. And he has testified that Mr. Courser asked him to send this out, and he told him he'd have to think about it. So that's what the count relates to, and I think, I see now we just need to do a little reining in here. I think you need to narrow the focus of your exam to that. I mean, we're trying to get off into personal emails and emails to me. I don't know where this ends, but I think the issue is whether or not he was solicited by Mr. Courser to send out some email. That's the focus I think we need to go. But that's going to help me determine probable cause. If he gave somebody Mr. Courser's password, I don't see how that helps me determine probable cause as to count 4.
Okay, that's good.
To the extent projection is sustained.
Give me 1 second, Your Honor.
Sure.
Why was sending that email illegal?
Can I rephrase the question? I mean, I didn't hear the question. What was that?
I asked, why was sending that email illegal?
You mean, why did he think it was?
Well, he testified that it was illegal.
Well, he can say that, Mr. DePerno. It doesn't mean much to me. Him saying it's illegal, he's not a lawyer. He doesn't have any legal training. He doesn't wear robes. That's for me to figure out. Now, if he thought it was illegal, he could testify as to why he thought it might be improper, but I'm not taking his statement that it was illegal to mean that it was. That's for me to figure out.
Did you think it was illegal?
I thought that it may have been.
But you didn't know.
I'm not an attorney, so no.
Why didn't you do anything right away with that recording? Why did you wait 2.5 months to distribute it to Chad Livengood?
I guess objection, I think, has already been asked and answered.
I'll take the answer.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Why did you wait 2 months to...
2.5 months.
2.5 months to...
As I said before, I didn't tell anyone or give it to anyone because I didn't trust anyone with it.
But you waited until after you were terminated to distribute it to Chad Livengood, correct?
Yes.
So what was the only explanation you have is that you just didn't trust people?
I believe that's what I said under questioning before, yes.
When Mr. Courser talked about inoculating the herd, did he explain what he meant by that?
No, he did not.
So you can't say then what his intent was behind that
Oh no,
phrase.
he explained his intent. He did not explain what he meant by using the
I
phrase.
asked you, I said, you don't know what his intent was behind that statement, inoculate the herd.
I believe you said, did he explain the phrase that he used? And I said, no, he did not.
I asked you if you knew what he meant by the phrase inoculate the herd, and you said you did not know what he meant.
And I'm the objector of being argumentative. He's got a question, he can ask
Did you
him.
know what defendant Courser meant when he said evacuate?
He explained the intent of the email was so if revelations of the affair with Representative Gamrat came out, no one would believe them.
All right.
Did he also tell you during that meeting that he was trying to expose the extortionist?
I would have to reference the tapes to answer that fully.
Do you have that to look at?
I have them.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Here you go.
Counselor, you would like me to review this?
Well, I'm
To
asking,
refresh your recollection.
Would you like to point out to me and save us some time?
I'm not, no, you...
Here, excuse me, what's the question?
The question was, did Mr. Courser state during that interview that, or that recorded conversation, that he was trying to expose the extortionist?
I don't remember specifically.
If he did say that to you, that would be another reason as to why he was sending that out, correct?
Again, objection, speculation, Your Honor.
I'll take the answer.
Can you repeat the question?
If he had told you that he was trying to expose the extortionist, that would be another reason why he was sending out that email.
I'm not sure I can know his reasons other than what he told me the reason was.
Had you and Mr. Courser talked about this extortionist before?
That was the first time I had heard about it.
You'd not heard at all before about anyone sending him text messages?
No.
Were you the person who was sending the text messages?
No.
Can I approach and get that? Can we have 1 minute?
Sure.
Connor, can we have a 10-minute recess or a break?
Really?
Yeah.
Do you have any other questions?
I have a couple more questions, but
Yeah, we have a break. My wife's gone.
Thank
10.
I'll call you back.
Okay, yeah, yeah, and then, yeah, that way, and then come right back.
If you don't put it in the card,
After that, he I'll take the answer.
No, I'm just...
Oh.
I'm just pushing my leg. Yeah. That's exactly right. You should do the same yourself.
Yeah.